you just dig
I have not. I've got the wife searching for it now.
Casey of Spiritual
I
Com
recommend you
101,
singing songs.
information speech.
I mean, this is good.
He's still on that from a long time ago.
Why are you turning your back on? I'm gonna fight.
That's fine.
All right.
Why? You yelled at me this morning.
Imagine that you just arrived at your new duty station at Yokota Air Force Base, Japan. Your new supervisor asks you to prepare for the next training manager meeting. As you prepare for the next training manager meeting, you notice that the audio-video equipment isn't working. When you mention to the civilian Japanese tech, he responds, "What do you want me to do about it?" You might think, "This guy's a jerk. How rude of him to brush me off." Not only was he unhelpful, but he was insulting. What I did know was the civilian tech was actually offering his assistance. But he looked confused and upset when I walked away. Had I not chosen to re-engage, this could have easily turned into a conflict based on mutual dislike rather than data interpretation. Today, my purpose is to inform you about culture shock and the strategies to help you overcome natural tendency to judge other cultures. We'll start off understanding the reasons why culture shock happens. First, understand that culture shock can cause discord with anyone who is different. Our personal viewpoint of the world is how we make sense of what goes on around us. Our basic assumptions of how we view the way the world works affects how we relate to other people. According to Paul Peterson, 5 stages of culture shock happens to anyone that encounters unexpected events and unfamiliar circumstances. The shock comes from different beliefs and values that are presented to one another. Our beliefs and experience, our ideas, are of what we know the world to be true. Our beliefs come from values passed on from previous generations. This can be seen in families who have strong religious beliefs that pass on these values to their kids. Many of us in here value living healthy lifestyles and plan to instill these values in our families and kids because of past experiences and perceptions. Our perceptions or schemas, according to R.T. Kellogg in his publication Cognitive Psychology, says that a schema is a mental representation of an activity, item, or concept. Most of our schema or perceptions come from how our family views the world around us. But our perception can be affected by different things like location, income, religion, and history. We all come from different places, come from various ethnic backgrounds, and practice different religions, and even amongst families there will be differences in values and beliefs. But because most of us hold strong to our values and beliefs, we can easily get offended when we see things that go against what we feel is right. Just think how most Americans feel about animal cruelty and dogfighting. How would you feel if you were visiting a foreign country and saw people placing bets on a dogfight as these dogs mauled each other to death? Even with strong disagreement in your feelings, would you still be open to understanding these cultures? Now that we talked about how we form our values and beliefs, let's look at how culture can change your values. Understanding why we have a natural tendency to judge different cultures is important. When we see something new to us, most of us try to relate it to something that we already know that's similar to our culture. When dealing with things that are unfamiliar, we look to our past perceptions or schemas. So our schemas or perceptions help us make sense of what is familiar and unfamiliar, and bridges ideas and cultures and relates it to what we already know. But when some things are so foreign and different than what we are used to, we categorize those things as strange. According to an article written by Tanya Glasser, because we are uncertain of how to explain a stranger's behavior, we start to feel uncertainty and anxiety. Because of the uncertainty and anxiety, naturally we tend to judge and question others with different attitudes, feelings, and beliefs. This can often lead to the thoughts of good versus bad, and taking a stance and attitude of us versus them. Naturally, we all believe our culture is normal, and most people believe that their culture is superior to all others. This attitude is known as ethnocentrism. Ethnocentric attitudes can offend others by imposing ideas and insisting that their ways are best. Ethnocentric people look to categorize others and often stereotype, making false assumptions. So now that we understand that we all have a natural tendency to have ethnocentric attitudes, as Air Force members, we need to negotiate with other cultures in order to meet our missions. It's best that we understand other cultures to head off any communication problems. So lastly, we will look at steps that can be used to overcome natural reactions to judging first. As we travel to different countries and interact with foreigners, we should apply these steps to better understand them. Step 1, suspend emotion. Giving into emotion can be hard to avoid, especially when we're surprised and shocked. But anger can get in the way when trying to understand others' viewpoints. It's good to stay in control, especially when we know our emotions are arising. Step 2, avoid stereotyping. There are too many stereotypes up there that are untrue. Stereotyping, generalizing, and assuming are good ways to offend others and can stop interactions and ruin negotiations. Step 3, try to walk a mile in another's shoes. Putting yourself in another person's situation will probably lead to improved and better understanding with those you are dealing with. Step 4, look for underlying reasons. Try to ask questions, look for explanations beyond your first impression. Seek alternative explanation and ask yourself questions. Refer to peers and ask locals about certain values and beliefs that can explain odd behaviors. In conclusion, I discussed how our values and beliefs directly affect culture shock and false perceptions. We know that we all have a natural tendency to be ethnocentric and view our way of life as better than others. When we see others' strange behaviors or disagree with other ideas, we have a tendency to judge. But we now know of the 4 steps we can apply to help understand when interacting with others from different cultures. Let's think back to when I first arrived in Japan and had prepared my training manager meeting and had my first encounter with the Japanese civilian technician. Had I been more culturally aware, I could have controlled my temper and learned to understand him first. Thank you.
Don't ever get like that. That was good.
Still for
Do you have questions?
Your office.
She didn't take it.